while I have you here, this is kind of the benefit if I get to talk to you. I get to talk to you about some of the Miami pro sports teams because there has been a little bit of news with a few of them this summer. And I want to first let's talk about the football team. You have the Miami Dolphins that, give Tyreek Hill an extension. They gave Tua a big extension, and they lost a few different pieces in free agency. So, what kind of year are we expecting out of the Dolphins this year with Tua getting that contract? Was he worth it? And is this a Miami team that's going to be going to the playoffs again, or is it maybe a little bit of a transition period?
Yeah, I tend to trend on a little bit more on the negative side with Tua. I'm not a Tua hater. There's this weird thing that happens with folks in Miami with Tua where he's like, it's almost like he's a politician or something. Like he's very polarizing. Some people just worship the guy, think he can do no wrong. That basically, some people would say he's basically Patrick Mahomes. Just everyone's let him down to this point. He's better than Patrick Mahomes, but it's everyone else's fault that he hasn't won a playoff game yet. And then there's people on the opposite end of the spectrum who just think he's terrible. I'm very much in the middle with Tua. Like the concerns that I have with him are just, there are still durability questions. He did manage to make it through last year completely healthy, which was great. Big step in the positive direction. Hopefully he can parlay that into another healthy year because availability has been a big question mark for him, even going back to Alabama. He didn't get through a full season healthy there. And then the other question I just have is, kind of the ability that some of the great quarterbacks in the NFL have from, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, where they can make something magic out of nothing. We haven't seen as much of that with Tua. The Tua is really, really efficient within the context of his offense, but when it's time to, put your Superman cape on and put a team on your back, he's not really proven at the NFL level that he's been able to do that. But my big picture question with the Dolphins, though, and to answer part of your question on the expectation, they absolutely should be a playoff team, and I believe they will be a playoff team. I think the question is, can they actually win playoff games? Because they haven't won a playoff game since December of 2000. That's the last time that organization actually won
With Dan
a
Marino?
postseason game. It was the year after Dan Marino. It was Jay Fiedler's first year after having taken over for Dan. They won a playoff game against, I think it was at home against Indianapolis. They haven't won a playoff game since then. So that's got to be where you set the bar, is actually because they should absolutely get to the playoffs, but actually winning games in the playoffs. And then, what I wonder is because it's a supremely talented team. Tua is very talented. They've got a stable of really talented running backs. They've got the fastest wide receiver core in the NFL. It's probably not close. They actually brought in a pass-catching tight end, Jonnu Smith. That's something they've been missing for the past couple of years. They've got a lot of talent at defensive back. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is still among the NFL's very best. They've got good pass rushers. But I worry a little bit about the offensive line. Actually, I worry a lot about the Dolphins' offensive line, and I worry a little bit about the defensive line depth, especially at the interior, because their biggest loss from last year was Christian Wilkins, who signed a contract out in Las Vegas. That was the biggest free agent that the Dolphins lost, defensive tackle. And so, what we've seen over the last couple of years is in the regular season and in the playoffs, the Dolphins, they basically a track team, when they have to go to cold weather spots for regular season road games and playoff road games, because they were in like record low temperatures in Kansas City last year. They had to play in Buffalo the previous postseason. They're just not built tough. Like they tend to get out physicaled by opponents at the line of scrimmage. So you look at the way the Dolphins have been built, it's kind of the opposite of the way Mario Cristobal's building the Miami Hurricanes, where Mario Cristobal, he wants to have the deepest offensive lines and defensive lines and just wants to play bully ball. Whereas Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins and Chris Greer, who's the general manager, they just want to pick up the fastest receivers and the fastest defensive backs they can find. And obviously you want to find like a good marriage somewhere in the middle. But with the Dolphins, to me, it felt like it's a team that's built to score a lot of points, but not necessarily a team that's built to win in the playoffs.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. The offense, it can be very explosive, but if Tua is not healthy and you can't protect him, that's where the things kind of get a little bit scary for you guys there. But looking at the division, Buffalo is kind of like going through a little bit of a transition period with how they're offense is kind of being built, where they're kind of getting rid of, Stephon Diggs and all of their other wide receivers. Patriots are in a rebuilding situation. Who the heck knows what we were going to get out of the Jets? They are kind of like the weirdest team in the NFL, mostly because of their quarterback. And even if he wasn't on the team, it would probably still be one of the weirdest teams. Again, I mean, like you said, if you can get home field advantage in the playoffs, win your division, and have the road to the Super Bowl go through Miami, that's probably your best case scenario. But when you're going to Kansas City and it's like 12 degrees and Tua's, shivering on the sidelines, that's where you guys run into a lot of trouble.
I was reading that at that, like, people who attended that playoff game in Kansas City, like, some people had to have like fingers like amputated because it was so cold. Like, people lost fingers to go watch that game. Fingers and toe. Like, I mean, that's, if ever I have an opportunity to go to a
Taylor
road.
Swift.
I guess so, right? Yeah. There you go. Well, she was sitting in a heated luxury box, I'm sure. The regulars,
tank top on.
Yeah, right. The regulars that were there at Arrowhead were like losing limbs to frostbite. So that was nuts.
I've been to a game where it was like under 20, and yeah, my toes got very cold. Some snow on the bleachers. That's life in the Midwest, man. Thank you for watching this clip from the Sports Detective Podcast Show. If you like what you saw here today, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. That is the best thing that you can do to support this show, and it costs you absolutely $0, and it is the best thing that you can do to help this show grow. And feel free to check out the rest of the Sports Detective Podcast channel page, because you might find some other videos that you like, including that video right there on your screen right now. Thank you for watching. Talk to you next time.